Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this video is to help you understand the calculation of planning and operating variances. From my experience, I found it very difficult to understand the calculation of operating and planning variances, especially when you are dealing with direct labor. So I thought I should make this video to help you understand it, so that whenever you are dealing with a situation, you will be able to do it with ease. Now, I have this question, this example. Okay. We're gonna look at question 3. Question 3. The standard labor rate for a company is 50 per hour. So that is the standard rate. 10,500 units were produced. Those are the actual units produced. The standard time per unit is 5 hours. So the standard efficiency for this direct labor is 5 hours, meaning per unit they should spend 5 hours. All right. As a result of labor negotiations, it was agreed to increase the rate by 8%. Okay, the actual rate paid was 56 per hour, whilst 65,000 actual hours were worked. Now, this statement here, as a result of labor negotiations, it was agreed to increase the rate by 8%. So we are told that the 50 rand per hour, which is the standard rate, it was revised and it was increased by 8%. Okay, so we know that the standard rate is 50%, and we know that the revised rate now is going to be 50% plus 8%, and the actual rate is 56%. Okay, now this question requires us to calculate all the variances. So whenever you're asked to calculate all the variances, you will have to calculate the planning and operating variances. All right, you will need to be elaborate when calculating your variances. So, and normally what you would do with labor, you will use the standard, okay, and the actual. All right, but we know that whenever we calculate our variances, we flex the budget, meaning since we are given the standard efficiency of 5 hours per unit, the total hours, we are not gonna use the standard hours or the standard or the budgeted hours, but we're gonna take the 5 hours, the efficiency, and multiply by the actual units to get the standard flexed hours. So those are the hours that we use to calculate what our variances. Now, coming to this now, this is how I calculate my variances. This is how I would have determined my variances. So I have my actual here, I have my actual at standard rate, I have my standard flexed. So the actual is the actual hours of 65,000 multiplied by the actual rate, which is 56. And then the actual hours at standard rate is the actual hours of 65,000 multiplied by 50 rand per hour, which is the standard rate. And now the standard flexed is the 5 hours per unit, which is the standard efficiency, multiplied by 10,500 units, the actual units produced. So we get our flexed hours, and then multiply by the standard rate of 50. Okay, so the total is 2,625,000 here, and then actual at standard rate is 3,250,000, and then the actual hours at actual rate is 3,640,000. Now my labor rate now is going to be the actual at standard rate minus actual to get 390,000 here. Okay, and then my efficiency rate, my labor efficiency rate, is going to be the standard flex minus actual hours at standard rate to get 625,000. Now the total variance here is 1,015,000. All right, now what I used to do, or what I did at first, if for instance you are asked to calculate or to split this variance between the planning and operating, what I did is, I thought if maybe I'm asked to calculate the planning variance, the rate maybe, the planning variance for rate, labor rate, what I would do is try to split this 390,000 between planning and operating, and also try to split this efficiency variance of 625 between planning and operating, only to realize that that's not how they do it. Because for instance, if we look at this example here, it's only the rate that was increased. So the efficiency, the standard efficiency did not change, it was not revised. That means even after we have revised the rate, they are still required to spend 5 hours per unit. So the efficiency remains 5 hours per the budget. But then the actual efficiency now is going to be, you're going to take this 65,000 hours, the total, and divide by 10,500. We're going to get the actual efficiency per unit. All right, now this is how we deal with the situation. So I came up with this table here. If you look at this table now, I have my budget here, I have my revise, I have my actual. Okay, so I have the efficiency. So the standard efficiency is 5 hours per unit. So the revised, we know that the standard efficiency was not revised, so it remains 5. So the actual, we took the 65,000 and divided by the 10,500 units, and we got 6. All right, it's 6 point, if to be precise, it's going to be 6.19. all right, now we have a labor rate here. Under the standard we have 50. The revised rate now is going to be 50 multiplied by 1.08, or 108 over 100. We get 54 rand. Okay, and then we have actual is 56. It's given. Now coming to the units of output, remember when I said when we calculate our variances, we always flex the budget, right? So we are not under the budget, we're going to use the actual units, because at the end we want to have the total flexed hours of 52,500. So we use the actual units here. Revised, there were no revised units, so the actual units again is 10.5 to get the total hours of 65,000 here. So under total hours here, I got 52.5 under the budget, being 5 hours per unit, which is the standard efficiency, multiplied by the actual units, we get 52,500. Now the question says calculate the planning and operating variances, or split the total variance of 1,015,000 between the planning and operating variance. Now what I would do after preparing this table here is, when we're looking at planning, I know that whenever I'm dealing with planning, I know it's between the standard, the budget, and the revised budget. That is planning. All right, that is planning. We compare the budget and the revised budget, and that any variance that is between these two is for planning. Now coming to the labor rate, now if we're saying when we calculate the planning variance, we look at the budget and the revised budget, we know that looking at this table, the budgeted rate was 50, but the revised rate now is 54. So that means I will compare these two. Okay, now the labor rate, now the formula that I have here is, we look at the standard rate, which is 50. Let me write here, we have 50, we deduct the revised rate, which is 54, and then we multiply by the standard flexed hours, which is what, 52,500. Okay, so this is going to be our our labor rate variance under planning, because we said we look at the budget and the revised budget. Okay, so it's gonna be, we take the 50 and then we deduct the 54. Okay, and then we multiply by the standard flexed hours. All right, we have 210 there. The reason it's negative, it's adverse, because per the budget we said we're gonna pay them 50 per hour, but per the revised budget they are supposed to be paid 54. So there is an excess expenditure here of 4. All right, now coming to the efficiency, if we look at the efficiency under planning, remember we said we have this standard efficiency here of 5. These guys, the labor was supposed to spend 5 hours per unit, and this was not revised. That means under planning we will not have a variance here, because if this 5 hours per unit was not revised, okay, that means when we compare the actual and the budgeted, it's going to be operating, because they worked for or against 5, so they had to spend 5 hours per unit. But if in the actual results they spend 6.9, the difference between 6.19 and this 5 is going to be operating, because it's not planning. They actually worked 6.19 instead of working 5 hours. So the budget was not revised, so there's no planning variance here. There's only going to be an operating variance. All right, coming here now, the operating variance. When we calculate the operating variance, we compare the actual results and the revised budget. All right, so if we look at the labor rate variance under operating, okay, so we're gonna look at the revised rate, which is 54, and compare it with the actual rate, which is 56. Okay, and then we're gonna multiply by the actual hours. Okay, let me write it. It's going to be 54 minus 56 multiplied by 65,000. What do we have? So we have 54 minus 56 multiplied by 65,000. Even here, this 130,000 is adverse. Okay, why is it adverse? It's because per the revised budget we're supposed to pay 54, all right, per hour, but actually we paid 56. There is that 2 rand difference there. Now coming to the efficiency, now we have the efficiency, because as we can see here, they were not efficient. Instead of spending 5 hours per unit, they spent 6.19 hours per unit, so they were not efficient. So under operating, because they worked under these conditions, so we will have an operating variance, we will have an efficiency variance under operating. Okay, now we're going to compare the standard hours, which is 52,500, and compare it with the actual hours, because since there was no revision here, it was not revised, so everything is going to be operating, because they had to work under these conditions here. Okay, they should have spent 5 hours per unit, but actually they spent 6.19, so the difference here is going to be an operating variance. So we take the 65, okay, take the 52, the standard hours, 52, 500 minus the 65,000. So instead of spending 52.5 hours, they spend 65 hours. We multiply by the revised rate, which is 54. Okay, what do we have here? So we have 52.5 minus 65,000. We'll multiply by the revised rate. Okay, now if you look at the total variance here, it equals exactly the 1,015,000 which we have where here. So this is how I do it. I prepare this table. I think this table makes things easier for me. All right, it's easier for me to understand if I prepare this table and to understand when I'm calculating the planning variances, what do I compare with what? All right, what do I look at? And when I calculate my operating variances, what is it that I am looking at? You know, looking at this table, as you can see here, you can tell that it's possible that even the efficiency, the standard efficiency, can be revised. All right, it can be revised that, because of so and so conditions, the standard efficiency was revised that now we expect them to spend maybe 6 hours per unit. Okay, it can be revised. That means if both the price or the labor rate, okay, is revised and the standard efficiency is revised, that means under planning and operating variances in both of these segments, we will have what? The efficiency variance in both of them. That means when we split the total variance here between planning and operating variance, we will have 4 variances, meaning 2 under planning and 2 under operating variance, if both the standard efficiency and the standard rate change. Okay, I hope this video is helpful. All right, but if you have your own way that you understand this, if you have your own method that works for you, continue with it. You don't have to revise this one, but this is my way, the way I understand it, and I thought is the easiest way, and it's easy to understand it this way. Okay, now if we look at these formulas, I have these formulas here. Okay, so let's compare that table with these formulas that I drafted some time ago. So when you calculate the operating variance, okay, we have operating variance here, we have the planning variance, and we have labor efficiency variance. All right, now the actual rate, we have the actual rate here, and we have the revised rate, and the actual hours and actual hours, they are the same. All right, it's common. So we get an operating variance here. So what are we looking at here? If we have the actual rate here and the revised rate, that means it's a rate, it's a labor rate variance, this one. Okay, it's a labor rate variance. That means it's the second one, this one. Okay, so we have the actual rate and the revised rate multiplied by the actual hours. It's operating variance. If you look here, it's what? It's operating variance even here, because we are comparing actual and revised. That means it's operating. So if we come here as well, the planning variance, we are looking at the revised rate and the standard rate. That means whenever we are comparing the budget, be it the standard budget or the revised budget, whenever there's a difference between the two, it's planning. Okay, it's planning. Okay, we're supposed to plan this way, but instead we have revised our plan to be something else. So whatever difference, it's planning. All right, so if we look at this one, we have a revised rate, we have a standard rate, but the standard flexed hours are what? They are common. So that means it's under planning, it's a rate variance under the planning. Now coming here, we have under planning, we have the standard rate minus the revised rate multiplied by the standard flexed hours. So this is a labor rate variance under planning. Now coming to the third one. The third one, now we have the actual hours and the standard flexed hours. Whenever we compare hours, you must know that it's efficiency. How efficient were they when they were producing this product? Okay, instead of spending these hours, okay, given the actual units that they produced, the standard flexed hours, they spent these actual hours. So the revised rate and the revised rate, that means it's the efficiency variance under operating. Okay, come here, it's under operating, because whenever we compare the actual and the revised, it's what? It's operating. Where is revised? Where is revised? So we have revised here, we have actual here. Okay, we have the standard flexed hours here. All right, that's how it is. That's how it is. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is helpful. I hope this is helpful.